GM, now my wrist so frozen. I just sold a bag, it's a real good morning. And I'm burning on my gas, but I made a couple thousand. Yeah, got me saying, GM, good morning. I hope you make a place in a bear market, just trying to make a way, yeah. And these goblins riding up to space, but it's kind of funny, so it's all good with me, yeah. Good morning, I hope you live it well. Kind of nut spread, taking care of yourself, eh. Good morning, I hope you living good. Hopefully this ETH gon' get us out of it. GM, now my wrist so frozen. I just sold a bag, it's a real good morning. And I'm burning on my gas, but I made a couple thousand. Yeah, got me saying, GM, now my wrist so frozen. I just sold a bag, it's a real good morning. And I'm burning on my gas, but I made a couple thousand. Yeah, got me saying, GM, good morning, I hope you make a place in a bear market, just trying to make a way, yeah. And these goblins riding up to space, but it's kind of funny, so it's all good with me, yeah. Good morning, I hope you live it well. Kind of nut spread, taking care of yourself, eh. Good morning, I hope you living good. Hopefully this ETH gon' get us out of it. GM, now my wrist so frozen.
All right, Kagi, enough of that, dude. Happy NFT Live, NFT NYC Cope Day. Everybody that's here, thank you so much for attending. We are going to cover the NFT industry while everybody's away up in New York. I am sitting here with two good friends of mine, that Finch guy, Mike Finch from Parada Capital. I have a Poner. He is from DeadHeads, of course. He's been on the channel multiple times. So excited to be sitting here with y'all. I'll start with Poner since he's been on before. Poner, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Like I was saying to you before, I got a surgery for a deviated septum, and they told me I can't fly. So I'm down bad looking at Twitter pictures and not being at NFT NYC. But I'm here with you guys.
Love it, man. Finch, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Weather here is beautiful. I can't get over that music. That intro was unbelievable. I was like trying not to laugh and screw something up and have my voice come through, but that was killer. Pleasure to be here as always.
My man, I appreciate both of you coming through. Again, I told the folks here in the chat last week that it was going to be a little dicey to see who we could get on the schedule, but we have a good group here. We're going to talk a lot of cool things. I'm seeing the Bored Ape stuff already come through. We were like kind of figuring it out behind the scenes, like how are we even going to talk about this topic? So we've got a couple topics here today. We're going to talk about FTX kind of bailing out BlockFi a little bit, kind of helping them, supporting them. We're going to talk Solana. We're going to talk this Bored Ape stuff, but we're really gonna hit the old NFT NYC there. So a lot of great stuff to talk about today. Before we do get started, guys, leave a like, comment after the video, comment on the video. We got the chat right there. Definitely leave a sub if you like the channel, and we will kind of intro our two guys here. So Poner, if you could start, man, just tell the folks out there that maybe don't know what you're getting into in the NFT space. Tell them what you're up to, man.
Yeah, my background overall is in marketing, so that's kind of how I look at a lot of projects. So I'm not a technical analysis guy. I'm looking strictly at like the sentiment of a community and kind of like the underlying factors there that are less financial and more kind of feeling with your gut and everything. That's really what I've been looking at in a down market and in a bear market is like, obviously it's cliche to talk about like which communities are gonna go away, which ones are gonna stay around, but there's a lot that can be learned from hopping in Discords, looking at Twitter, but then going to the places that people aren't usually at, like Instagram and all that, and seeing projects are actually like gaining momentum there.
Hell yeah, man. I want to quickly get your opinion here on this. Is this a good marketing tactic here by the crypto dick butts? Is this a good one?
I mean, if you can get people to share videos, it works, man. And he's got the McDonald's hat on. It's we're all going to be working pretty soon, so it works.
Truth. Finch, let them know what's going on, man.
Savage, man. Savage. No, I like that. I'm interested to hear from you, Poner, on what you think and kind of where those hot communities are right now. This will be a good dialogue between the three of us, because I tend to kind of take the other side of the coin there and think about it from more of like a financial sense. So myself and another partner run basically like our own self-funded crypto hedge fund, if you will, right? So we're not like a big bad VC or anything like that everybody likes to hate on. We're really kind of two crypto guys from back in the day, just like Q, just like a lot of you guys out there listening. And over the last year or so, have really been getting into NFTs, and I've seen a lot of the, kind of the potential for it as a new market within crypto, and I think it has some really interesting kind of utility cases and whatnot. So happy to be here, happy to learn. And, hopefully I can add a little bit to it.
Love it, fellas. All right, well, we will get started here. I want to give a quick shout out before we get rolling to the chat. Hash Rhymes is saying our vibe, our tribe. Asmodai is in the house. Theophiles is saying hi from Freiburg, Germany. What do you guys think about the BAYC Nazi reproach? I saw the research summarized in a Philly-owned vid. Sick troll crap. We will touch on the Bored Ape stuff here in a sec, fellas. Virtual Graphics says that will be interesting to see how that plays out, but some accusations go back almost a year. Asmodai is in, Alex is in, Bubble, Sianak is also in the house. So we are here, and everybody else is here in NYC, so we're going to try our best. But I'm going to pull up a couple other videos. We had ApeFest go on. We also had some Azuki stuff. You could see the photos of all our tribe members, essentially, everyone who's been on NFT Live before. We see Easy in the house. We see GIF. We see Tigbo, got a little bit of Lola Menthol there, Ronan. So we showed you guys a little bit of a video of all of our folks in the house. So they're enjoying NFT NYC. So the first question, fellas, is how are you dealing with the cope of not being in NY right now? I know, Poner, you said you were having surgery, so you were like physically unable to do so. I don't know if me and Mike have as good an excuse as you, man.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's a good thing I didn't go because the lady ended up getting sick. So her being sick, taking care of the little one by herself while, you and I perused New York City and drank cocktails and went to ApeFest would probably not be a good look for the familial relations. But, it's one of those things where I feel like up until the point I was like, you know what, it's bear market, shouldn't spend the money, blah, blah, not going to do it. And then when the week rolls around, it's just FOMO across the board, because I'm sure the city's gorgeous right now. All the mask stuff is done, right? Like this is definitely where you want to be. So bit of FOMO.
How about you, Poner?
I'm just living vicariously through the people that are there. And since I'm running social media a lot, it's hard to do that a lot of times when you're in person at an event, just because you're trying to be present. So I'm just going the complete opposite direction of just going full social media and trying to be present there.
Yeah, so obviously we couldn't catch like all of the events that are happening. I mean, I heard there were like thousands of events going on that were either peripheral or ones that obviously NFT NYC put on. But we do have a couple of things here. I showed you some Azuki stuff. This is from ApeFest. There was a Gold Mutant reveal. Clearly, a lot is going on in NYC. So I guess, Poner, I can ask you a question here too, man, because of your background looking at the marketing piece. Is it necessary for projects to, have an in-person event these days on the long-term timeframes? Should they all be doing some type of event at NFT NYC if they're going to be seen as a legitimate project?
Yeah, and I think that this is a conversation I've had with a good amount of people. So it's an interesting one, just because a lot of times people think about it from like a tangible ROI, like how many sales are going to come from it, things like that. I think that the biggest benefit to having an event is getting people obviously like hyped about it, getting people together in person so they can meet in person, which like strengthens that core factor of how bought in they are to stuff. But then also kind of the biggest, so I've only been to one in-person NFT event, and that was VCon. The thing that like blew my mind at first was just like seeing all the like merch people were wearing. And it really clicked again for me, like NFTs being a way that people like identify themselves and self-identify just as much as like clothing and everything else. So for that reason, I think that it enhances the number of people that you're going to be able to like keep together through times like this, especially. So I think events are not 100% necessary, but they definitely help people like you more.
What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I think so, right? Like for whatever reason, last year NFT NYC kind of supplanted itself as like the major NFT event, right? At least as far as I can tell. So, yeah, you know, if you want to keep your community engaged, understanding that they, you know, probably have a couple other NFTs, maybe they have like a doodle or a goblin or something like this, right? And if you've got those three there, and you know the first one in the example just doesn't have anything going on, it becomes a lot easier to maybe sell that one and move out of the community than those kind of throwing a cool party, right? And I think it helps connect kind of the digital aspects of NFTs with the in real life aspects. You know, considering market conditions too, right? Everybody's kind of looking for some reprieve, a little bit of relief, trying to have fun with some internet friends that they've maybe met over the last few months or years. So I think you got to have it. I'm interested to see if it makes a difference this year as much as it did last year, considering kind of the overall market conditions. You know, last year it was very much about like BAYC and Doodles and some of these kind of proving themselves and proving that they can throw a real party and kind of bring the community together. And you saw a bunch of different communities execute on that. So I'm interested to see like who does it well this year and what sort of impact does that actually make to floor prices or sentiment or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, ApeFest was obviously at the top of these headliners. As we can see, like a lot of other projects, Cyber Brokers, I think, had a lot of good sentiment as it was coming out of the party last night. But yeah, I think you're right. The projects need to have some type of in-person activations. We'll see again at the end of this week which ones come out on top. Maybe that would even be a cool thing for us to do here on NFT Live, is like rank the events as they kind of came out of the week. But yeah, ApeFest was one that was on everybody's mind. I did want to get y'all's thoughts on this mutant that was revealed. A lot of people are saying this is the worst M3 mutant that they've seen. There's a lot of them. I'll show you the video here again as it was revealed. Beeple was at the party as well. I'll pull up a little ApeFest Twitter feed for y'all. But overall, I think the sentiment was kind of, you know, mixed on ApeFest itself. I think the Amy Schumer stuff kind of fell flat. They thought maybe she was like one of those celebrities who really wasn't in the NFT space who they brought in, and it just didn't hit. I think Beeple and Jimmy Fallon were also at ApeFest as well, but I've got the feed pulled up here, and we'll see if we can see some vids. There's Jimmy there at ApeFest. So I think it was a mixed bag for ApeFest. We'll see what happens on night 2 and night 3, but overall what I'm hearing, you know, from not being at the event, sadly, is that, you know, it's kind of a mixed bag there. Probably 6 out of 10 if I had to put it all together.
Yeah, the thing that I will say is I think it's really easy. It's really easy to waste money on things that like don't land with people. So like Amy Schumer, I'm sure they spent a good amount of money getting her. So like I think that you can go too far with an event where you just have so much going on and you threw money at so many different areas that it's almost like overwhelming. And the things that matter is the people talking and being there in person anyways, and that's kind of going to take the main stage at the end of the day anyways.
Yeah, that's a good point. Amy Schumer just doesn't seem like kind of who you're looking for this event based on your audience, right? Like somebody like a Bill Burr, right? Somebody who can kind of like poke at all of the easily poked at things about NFTs or about apes without kind of without kind of being stupid about it. You know, he's going to keep it funny while also maybe poking it at some of the NFT haters. So that didn't make sense to me. I like the gold M3. But to me, it just seems like how can we kind of like integrate some of the cool BAYC things in real life, right? Like the serums. Okay. So maybe if you have 3 different serums, why not have like 3 different beers, right? And if I don't know, there was some sort of internal metric within BAYC, you had access to those beers or something like that. Obviously way more complicated Poner can kind of break it down for how complicated that would be. I imagine, as some people aren't 21 and whatnot there, but I think you can always do more, and I think that's kind of why it's fun too, right?
Absolutely. All right, so we actually do have audio from that Schumer. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to have you guys rank it here in chat. I'm going to throw up a poll, but we do have audio. Let me know. I'm going to do like a 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and then a 9 out of 10, which we probably don't even need to throw up, but we'll see. Let's see how she ranks. Oh, helicopter, great, right away.
I'd like to introduce, coming to the stage, you know her, she just hosted the Oscars. Give it up for Amy Schumer! Oh my God, thank you, thank you. I only perform under helicopters. Thank you so much. This is, every comedian hopes to one day perform on a pier. And yeah, get your phones out, I want to remember this. And they say, Amy, what's your target audience? And I say, they need to own 6-figure NFTs, and that is who I will perform for. Those are my people, okay? That's who I am. This is gonna be a really good view of my fupa. So congratulations, you're here. You're gonna see some living legends, including myself. And I just wanna say, I'm really proud. I'm not just here tonight as a model, but I'm also here as a mom. Yeah, not bad for a year.
So I gave you a little bit of an insight there. The only one thing I will say is it looks like there were some note cards there that she was reading off of. That's the jokes were okay. I'm not an Amy Schumer fan myself, but I'll give her like a 4 for her performance there. Just I got a docker for the note cards though.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was gonna go 4 or 5 there. It's like I thought one or two of those jokes was good. I was hoping the mom one was gonna come through. That one sounded like it was gonna be a good one, kind of with a bunch of younger guys in the audience. But the 6-figure one was good, but it's the wrong person for that audience. Who knows? Maybe right now is a really busy time for comedians, and she was the only one available or something. But yeah.
Connor, thoughts?
I'm just gonna be biased just because I'm not an Amy Schumer fan either, and I've avoided all the Bored Ape stuff just because I didn't get in, and I'm bitter there. So the Bored Ape stuff is like the sector of NFTs that I know the least about, or at least try to. It's really hard to know nothing about them, but the in-depth stuff, yeah.
No, that's understandable. It's tough to continue within a project if you're not a holder. I get that. The space is vast, and definitely understand that point. We will get to the Bored Ape stuff here in a second as it relates to the accusations. I see that the chat is talking a little bit about NFT NYC. Xbox says Schumer is awful. Brian is saying Goblin Town event tonight is the one I wish I could be there for. That's going to be an interesting one, man, because the founders of Goblin Town just doxed themselves. I was interviewing somebody the other day that was saying like it was almost needed if they were going to have an in-person event to dox the team to make sure that like they could be a part of that event. So it will be interesting to see how a Goblin Town event will do. Gonna keep reading the chat here as we go forward, but it looks like NFT NYC is going well, man. The one comparison I'd love to make, and I want to get your take on this, Mike, is the events that we used to go to just when crypto was happening. Not NFTs. It seems a little bit different. There is a little bit different of a vibe than when you were kind of going to cryptocurrency or ICO conferences. And the ICO conferences were a little different. There was definitely much more shilling going on. I feel like there's no shilling going on when it comes to NFTs. It's 100%, or at least 90% about the culture, where as the events that we used to go to, it was almost like they were raising funds from you, talking about their project and all this different stuff. It feels like this is just an event and a conference to go meet your friends and see what's good.
Yeah, I mean, if you kind of rewind the tape and look at the 2017, 2018 timeframe, like I hate to shit on them again, but like EOS raised $4 billion, right? And they had very, very little presence at some of these ICO conferences. But you're right. I mean, they were more so around kind of building a user base or business to business relations or things like this versus kind of a reward of sorts, I guess, to folks, right? Like these parties seem very insulated to those holders. I mean, obviously that's kind of the point of the access aspect of the NFTs, but it definitely seems way more fun. I would, if I had to choose, I would definitely go to these events first. I would be curious, like how much networking of sorts goes on at these, right? Like, can you go to ApeFest and actually meet cool people who are working on, you know, some like NFT ticketing system or some other unique project or something like this? So that's what I would be most interested in, where it's like you get the party, you have the fun, you see the releases or the announcements, the trailers, whatever it is, but then also like you leave kind of with this renewed enthusiasm. And I imagine, Poner, like from a marketing standpoint, that's what these founders want, right? They want that like excitement.
Yeah, definitely. And just speaking like to the marketing piece, like comparing to the coin stuff, I wasn't involved back then, but as you can imagine, like having the symbol of a coin is a lot less marketable than like the NFT and the culture and the brand that's built around NFTs. So I think like the best thing to happen is for people to have fun at the event and just share a bunch of stuff on social and create kind of that FOMO. And that's like all the marketing you need out of it. So you can make the event be more fun and less shilly, which is cool.
That's actually a great point, man, because back when cryptocurrencies and ICOs and all this, different type of project was kind of launching, only a couple different projects assigned like a mascot. Like I can remember SNX Spartans, I can remember Link Marines. Like these were assigning the community an identity without necessarily doing so. So that's a really cool point. I like that.
Q, do you remember? I don't know if you went, but maybe it was in San Fran at Token Fest, the Celsius party.
No,
Back in the day. No,
Hold
you
on,
weren't worth. Well, as a good comparison to like, you know, BAYC renting out an entire pier and doing all of these different things for 3 days, or all these people descending upon New York and this being a cool thing. Well, Celsius, like the now infamous Celsius, they were an ICO back in the day and they were successful. They raised 38 million bucks or something like that. And Dimitri and some other colleagues at the time were really excited to go to this the Celsius like big house party, some big house on the side of this hill. Well, turns out it was like miles and miles away. There was no lighting on the side of this hill. So this poor Uber driver's driving like 6 huge dudes in this Uber out to this house. And they get there and it's like the Celsius team, but there's like not really that many other people. Of course, it was, you know, mostly dudes. And I think, you know, all in all, they ended up having fun. I don't want to kick Celsius too bad while they're down. But it, you know, it's just funny, like at like comparing the two and how far we've come and how budgets have changed in a massive way too for these parties.
I'm excited for like mansion parties, yacht parties, and those to be less of a thing, just because like it just feels like there's people like coming new to money and they want to do like what the, I don't know, stereotypical money thing is by having mansion parties and yacht parties. Yeah.
Well, Poner, how old are you, man? You're pretty young.
I'm
to
28.
say you don't want to hit well, yeah, I guess. Okay, 28.
I mean,
okay.
I would go. I'm not saying that I would
That's
go,
old for
but
crypto.
I would rather go to like, yeah, I would rather go to a mansion party, like not because somebody rents out the mansion. I want to go to somebody that owns the mansion or whatever.
One of the coolest things about NFT NYC this week is that a lot of people didn't know if it would have this like negative feel now that the markets are down, and I feel like it's been the exact opposite. Everyone that's there seems to be really coping better than we are not being an NFT NYC here. So all right, we will get to the next piece here, and we'll stay kind of in that ApeFest. Last piece. This did actually come through. I showed a clip earlier, but this was probably the biggest. This was the biggest clip to come from NFT NYC. Like, it got picked up on like mainstream media, of course, because what happened was Atom Bomb Squad paid for these people, and I'm going to try to get it to loop here. to come and pretend that they were NFT haters. So you could see like anti-MetaMasker there. These are going to be great merch pieces here in a second. God hates NFTs. And so let me see if I could pull up. There was some audio to this as well. But essentially everybody thought these people were real. And they're made to come off that way, so it makes sense. But eventually it came out that Atom Bomb Squad, who is in there, you can see ban Atom Bomb Squad, actually paid for these guys to come out. So just another little quick piece there on NFT NYC. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff, of course, going on the rest of the week, but we'll get to the next one, right, guys?
Yeah.
Of course. We'll be at the next one. All right, we will get to the next story, which is an interesting one. I see that chat has been, blowing up, of course, about a little bit of this, and I guess, Bored Ape Nazi ideology theory that has come out in a kind of massive YouTube unveil here that I'll pull up. This comes from the account Philion as well as a guy named Ryder Rips. So they put it together like an hour video that is essentially what would be called, for people who maybe don't believe it, a conspiracy theory. Others, it's kind of an unveiling. I have the link in the description if you want to actually check it out. But to kind of go over the essential pieces, this guy Philion essentially put together this video as well as a blog post here by... And I think this blog post was actually by Ryder Rips, but essentially they were working together to unveil that Bored Ape has all of these Nazi and racist affiliations. There's, a long list here, 1 through, I think, 12, that kind of lay out why Bored Ape is, based on all of this ideology. So you can see they make a little bit of not recommendation, but they call out that the Bored Ape logo looks a lot like the Waffen SS logo. Yuga Labs actually is based on this Kali Yuga element or term that's used by the alt-right. Gargamel has some type of affiliation with anti-Semitism. The list goes on and on, down all the way to the fact that the other side in Bored Ape Yacht Club launched on the day Hitler died. Some of these are a little bit more far-fetched than others, but overall, it hit Twitter like a freaking hurricane yesterday. Now, this might be something that's gone in a week, but essentially what you have here is the largest NFT project in the space dealing with the fact that people are calling them out for being, anti-Semitists, Nazis, racism, allegations, all this stuff. So want to get your guys' take. I know it's a touchy subject, but what are your thoughts on this movement or this trending hashtag burn BAYC here and this entire story?
Man, I don't know. It's stuff like this where it's so blatantly a conspiracy theory makes it hard for me to kind of hop on, right? A lot of it seems very, seems like a coincidence, right? Like the logo as a good example. And it seems to be one of those things where as you kind of like dig deeper into the quote unquote evidence, there's stuff that you can very kind of easily argue against the other way, right? So I'll give you an example. So one of their points is that they launched BAYC on the day that Hitler died. Well, why wouldn't you launch it on the day he was born, right? So it's like stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, yes, but there's like a 1 in 365 chance that they do this. If had they done it on the day that some other dictator died, I'm sure there would be interesting ways that you could kind of connect that dictator or that that awful event with that there, right? So you're seeing something here with the Starbucks logo and Panda Express, right? Like it's not something that worries me too, really. I mean, I think it can be dangerous if too many people kind of get behind it and start pushing it. Crypto's rampant with false narratives and kind of fake narratives, so you have to be careful there. But long term, I don't think it will have an effect. Of course, they're going to kind of push it during NFT NYC because they're going to try to get as many hits and as much interest around NFTs then. But I would bet that most people at ApeFest or most people with a BAYC are going to kind of look at this and like and kind of shrug it off and be like, listen, we've heard this story before. Like, I see your evidence here, and it's just it's not kind of something that I'm willing to go down the rabbit hole with you on. So
Yeah, and I think from like a logic perspective, again, with me not being too ingrained in the Bored Ape ecosystem, like even if you make the argument that like, okay, whoever launched Bored Ape or the people that launched Bored Ape didn't know it was going to be a huge success, and this was their motive, like all of the due diligence that's gone into the money that they've raised and everything, you'd think that something from somebody's past who's planning to do something like that would come up and be a huge red flag. So it seems like kind of one of those headline getters, and also kind of like copium for anybody that didn't get into Bored Ape, as well as anybody that isn't in NFTs. And like these narratives, I think that's like the most impact that it has is probably just another headline for the people that aren't in NFTs. Now they can see something and they're just bombarded with kind of like the negative headlines. So there's another negative headline that comes out around something that is a huge project they've probably heard of before.
Yeah, I'm going to get to some of these comments here as we go along. The other piece to this story, which, you know, if anybody was kind of on the fence about whether to believe this or not, kind of throws it through a loop, is the fact that the Ryder Rips, who was an essential part of this story, launched an NFT project based on BAYC that did the most volume in the NFT space yesterday. Right, so it was great timing to launch this. I'm going to pull this up on my screen, but this was a screenshot here from the volume that they did yesterday. It looks like 3,267 ETH volume, and they were the top in the space. So if anybody was on the fence here, in my opinion, the fact that this collection came out and it was solely based on, as you can see, ripping off the exact IP that they were actually condemning, that's where I would kind of follow on the other side. So I didn't watch the entire hour-long video. I got I read the entire blog post. I read all the accusations there. But, as much as there were a lot of claims there, this action here of creating hype to drop then a collection based on that initial IP kind of throws me over to one side.
How long until there's like a funky algorithmic token associated with some of these NFT projects where it just trades up or down based on floor price going up or down? Because that screams like the easiest short of all time, right? This guy's like clearly ripping off IP, putting together this wild story behind a conspiracy theory that has already existed, and like you said, probably already has a handful of people who are willing to kind of literally buy into it by buying into a new non-Nazi BAYC here. So yeah, I'm with you, right? It's like when you start to connect financial gain to your your conspiracy theory or your evidence, then it's hard to take it seriously.
Yeah, I'm going to hit on some comments here. DJ Wisdom saying, God help us. Expo was saying the Nazi chat is funnier than Amy Schumer was, which, again, I don't want it to get too dark here in the chat, guys. This is a story that we obviously need to cover. It did the most volume in the NFT space here over the past 24 hours, but let's make the chat at least a little formal here as we kind of go forward. Nothing crazy. This really kind of split in my opinion, like even people in the NFT space took it and kind of said, hey, there's some truth to this. There's like an 18 teeth piece here, which of all of the, I guess, research that was done there in the actual YouTube video probably is the most condemning, because it like had the exact amount in both the the Nazi propaganda or the ideology stuff and the imagery as it was in the Bored Ape. Some of the other things that he kind of pointed out were a little bit more of a stretch, but it seems like this is kind of like taking hold. I don't think it's like a one-off piece here that is going to go away for the Bored Ape Yacht Club here anytime in the future. So I'm going to continue kind of looking at this chat here, guys, as we go forward. So any last thoughts here before I bring in some chat?
None from me.
Yeah, none for me.
All right, DJ Wisdom saying them selling BAYC copies is ridiculous. Dickenza is saying didn't even remove the attributes he views as negative attributes. Cyanok saying he should have convinced Seneca to release something new and untainted. DJ Wisdom saying watch the whole video. It gets more interesting as it progresses. Xbox saying people try to say the OK symbol with a hand is racist. Stop it. It's pathetic. Basement dwellers trying to cancel something. And we need to know so that it does not happen again, Theo. So, again, the comments are ranging here as we kind of watch this story unveil a little bit. But, again, to me, the fact that they launched a whole collection based on the hype of this video is a little bit damning. So, it kind of makes me honestly want to just not even kind of give it the time of day. So, we'll continue on here through the stories. Appreciate the comments that are coming through, guys. Again, rolling through NFT Live as NFT NYC is going on. In kind of not the best segue that we've ever had on the channel, we're going to talk about FTX into BlockFi here. So obviously, and I would love to get your take here, Mike, as you have a lot of experience here dealing with the financial markets and the stock market, and obviously the crypto markets that you guys trade continuously over at Parada Capital. But we had a message here from Zach Prince over at BlockFi. This was actually earlier today at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard. Today, BlockFi signed a term sheet with FTX Official to secure a $250 million revolving credit facility, providing us with access to capital that further bolsters our balance sheet and platform strength. Really like that Twitter is becoming the blog release of the the crypto space. Like, there wasn't a blog associated. It's literally just a thread from Twitter, which is dope to see. But give us kind of the breakdown here, Mike. What's the summary of what BlockFi is doing here, and does that signal kind of a rest easy for the space that's kind of in a flux right now in the bear market?
Yeah, I think overall it is a rest easy. I think context is very important here. BlockFi, in the middle of the bull market, raised a round that had their company valued at something like $3 billion, which for the amount of revenue they're putting out is pretty wild. Obviously, bull market, right? Everybody kind of wants to hop in. So, the super cycle meme applies to private markets just as it does to public markets. So the context is basically that they announced a handful of days ago they were going to run what's called a down round in fundraising, which is where you raise at a valuation that is less than the previous valuation you raised at. They were doing a down round at 66%, meaning that they were going to raise at a valuation of $1 billion instead of $3 billion. This burns those VCs and those investors in that $3 billion round, some of whom were very, very large, very influential. It's going to make it difficult for them inherently to go and raise, even if they raise $50 million at a $1 billion valuation, it's still going to be difficult because of kind of what they turned around and did so quickly to those investors who invested at that $3 billion valuation. So that's kind of contextual piece one. Contextual piece two is obviously all of the issues that we've seen with Celsius and all of this contagion around bad borrowers, right? Three Arrows Capital. I'm sure there's a handful of other smaller funds or whales who have kind of been caught up in this, but starting with Luna and Terra, as everybody knows, that contagion spread to Celsius. It spread to Three Arrows Capital in some kind of timeline there. And the concern for BlockFi theoretically and kind of allegedly here is that if they had taken too much of a hit from some of this contagion, it would make it that much more difficult to raise at that $1 billion valuation. third piece of context, most simply, is obviously that the traditional markets and traditional venture capital, and traditional private equity are going through like a massive risk off, time frame now, right? Stocks are going down just like crypto has. So nobody's really kind of ready to dump some cash into what I would call like a distressed crypto company. For whatever reason, people like to invest kind of towards the top with momentum than they would trying to kind of get in with a brand that I think is still very strong in BlockFi. Sam saw that. So it seems to me like Sam will effectively provide a nonstop $250 million line of credit to BlockFi. Obviously, behind the scenes, there are terms that are going to be super beneficial to FTX, but this is what FTX does, right? FTX is now one of the major exchanges. They're loved by what you would call kind of your sharper traders, those who maybe come from more of like a traditional financial background or traditional trading background. They do some really awesome things with margins. So they're killing it. They're making a ton of money. They did the sponsorship thing in the bull market, and now this is kind of their way to buy the dip of sorts. I'd be interested to see what sort of activity they have through their Blockfolio acquisition that they made about a year or so ago, and kind of the lending and borrowing activity that's happening there. Again, overall, I think this is good for BlockFi. This is good for the space. There are some other things that Sam and CZ and some of these folks have done, it seems, to kind of make sure that the market can kind of base and settle, and we don't keep dealing with this contagion and the price doesn't keep going down. So I think overall it's good. It's certainly, if you were a BlockFi investor, one of these big VCs, you're absolutely wrecked right now, especially if you invested in the last round at a $3 billion valuation. If you're somebody who has money with BlockFi, I think it's better than not having this news, because now one of the largest kind of growing like crypto banks of sorts in FTX and in Sam has now largely made a partnership with BlockFi. So that's kind of how I see it. Obviously, you can't know all the details behind the scenes, but kind of piecing some of that context together, I think, helps give us like a good idea of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and obviously this event has a lot to do with trying to figure out where we are going forward, right? We can't continuously have like BlockFi getting completely liquidated or just like go under, or else the market's going to continue to kind of plummet. But Bitcoin sitting at 21, Ethereum sitting at, I'm thinking, let's see, I had it up here, 1100. Poner, do we think, and maybe you don't have to bring in the BlockFi Celsius piece here, but do you kind of in your mind think that we're kind of settling here? Do you think we have a little ways to go?
Yeah, I was going to say I just learned something from Mike, so I don't think I can add any commentary there. Whenever I hear down round, I just think of Silicon Valley, if you guys have seen that, where they talk about like down rounds and stuff. That being the kiss of death.
Just being a retail investor, do you think like we're kind of settling here? Like it just give me your gut feeling.
So for reference, I'm the guy that sold like 20 Ethereum when the war in Ukraine started, because I thought that was going to make it go down more. So I know nothing about markets. I need to give that context just because this is purely.
That might have been a good sell though.
It was terrible. I sold at the bottom, and then it went up to like 3,000. I think I sold at like 2,400, and then it went back up to 3,000. See, I thought it was going to be a good sell, but
you're up
just
now.
With everything. Yeah, with everything in the market. I mean, it feels like it's going to be just a little rebound. I think that there's a ton of room for crypto to go down still over the next year. So I plan on just dollar cost averaging. I think the most interesting thing that I'm going to be looking at is just like when and if NFTs and NFT pricing fluctuates at all based on lower ETH prices, because like I think most of the people that are in it right now, 1 ETH is 1 ETH, but that's fine for people that are in it right now. I think there's a ton of people that friends are going to tell, go buy your first Ethereum and look into these NFTs. And now it's going to be new people buying in with Ethereum at that cash price of whatever they buy in at, whether it's $1,000 or lower. Then that makes it a lot easier to buy a 4 ETH project if you're putting in $4,000, as compared to a lot of people that bought 4 ETH when it was 3,000 and that was 12 grand.
That's a great point. Yeah. No, well, I learned something from you there. I mean, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, especially if we do go lower in ETH price and we're at like 700, 500, right? Now these half ETH floors or 2 ETH floors, or I don't know where the goblins sit now, but some of these kind of mid-tier projects that maybe the floor comes down a little bit over these next few months, it's, 200, 300, 400 bucks, half ETH floor. That seems like a very fair ticket price if you assume that, we're obviously going to not only see ETH climb, but also see NFTs continue to evolve and continue to grow in these communities to do the same. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, so I wanted to get on this last piece for BlockFi, which was the lending services. Obviously, like, people are trying to find areas where they can kind of park their USDC, their stable coin, or even their ETH to find some type of yield here. Mike, is there anywhere that's, and I don't want to use the term safe because it sounds like financial advice, but like, where should people be looking to park their money when BlockFi, Celsius, all of these traditional places, or I quote unquote cryptocurrency traditional, but traditional places are saying, hey, throw your money in here, it's safe, and then you see a Celsius situation where I can't even withdraw my funds anymore, I'm screwed. Where should people be looking to kind of chase yield? Again, not financial advice.
Yeah, definitely not financial advice. I mean, you have to kind of look at this and make a decision based, I think, on your own risk to reward metrics, right? It's not a happy answer for those looking to get yield right now, but obviously right now is kind of the sketchiest time ever to go and try to get 4 or 5% on your dollars. If you put 10K in and you're risking basically $10,000 to make 400 in a year, is it really worth that $400 versus waiting kind of 3 months or 6 months or even a year for kind of all of this to settle and all of this to shake out? It's funny, but if you just look at June and try to remember the sentiment that you saw on Twitter or with your friends or whatnot, I think largely more people with the Luna situation than I would say the Celsius, and certainly the Three Arrows Capital situation, saw Anchor kind of starting to have issues, right? They never switched from this fixed 20% rate to a variable rate. They started buying Bitcoin, and Bitcoin started to kind of get a little shaky, right? Like, you could kind of see that system falter a little bit. But then Celsius was like, holy cow. Definitely didn't see that one coming. I mean, there were some hints in the past. Mashinsky was kind of doing some sketchy stuff with how he was using funds to get those massive APYs, 10 to 15% at any time. And then finally Three Arrows Capital, which is like, that would be like the equivalent of an Apple coming out and having like massive fraudulent areas of their business, right? I think most people would look at that and say, like, what, that would never happen. And that was the brand that Three Arrows Capital had. Most people kind of on the trading side expected them to be hedged or making money on the way down, whereas they were seemingly just kind of loading the boat more and more as the price went down and down. So the point of all of that is that surprises can happen, right? And you, especially at this time with such a sketchy macro backdrop, you have to really look at your risk to reward and be comfortable with it. To the point where it's like, if you need, let's say you have that $10,000 and you need $1,000 over the next few months for expenses or something, like, it's, maybe it's better off to just take 1,000 of those $10,000 and use that versus trying to throw it into some sketchy, 25% yield farm or something somewhere, not knowing kind of what smart contract health is looking like there, or kind of who's involved or what sort of contagion might have spread. So I think you have to be super careful right now.
Love those takes. I just pulled up the Celsius chart here, up 230% in the last 7 days as well. So like a super volatile coin here, as Celsius is kind of in the midst of figuring out what it's going to do. I think most people think that, and again, the liquidation price, I think, for Celsius, meaning like it was Armageddon, for them at least, was like $16,000 Bitcoin. It never got close to that number, so it looks like people might be kind of looking at Celsius, although in the last, few hours it doesn't look too good, but it looks like the worst is over for Celsius. And unless I'm wrong there, the NFT price floor, and this is just over the past 24 hours, we can zoom out here to 7 days on another platform. But I guess the question here being, are you guys getting exposure to NFTs at this point, or are you staying in ETH, like knowing that the backdrop being not as good as it should, although the crypto markets have settled a little bit, ETH has settled a little bit? Are you looking to get exposure to NFTs still, or are you kind of like saying, hey, I'm going to park my money in ETH or Bitcoin?
I'm trying to do both. I'm a little bit addicted to buying NFTs, so I still have to buy some of them just to scratch that itch. But I'm definitely not buying as aggressively as I once did, but I'm still keeping a close eye on like that narrative of, if more people from outside of crypto start buying in, what that could potentially do to floor prices. I guess like the floors that I've just been trying to look at, like Cool Cats, I think went down to 3 and now it's back at 4.34 there. MFers was down to like 1 ETH at one point, and I think it's moving towards 2. Yeah, it's at 1.88. So seeing like that small snapshot of projects, it definitely makes me think about what if I got in lower. But with that being said, I think that the market's going to have a way over the next year that brings things back down to a price. So I'm trying not to FOMO too hard is what I'm getting at, I guess.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. For some reason, the NFT market to me is so much more exciting than tokens right now. I think it's been that way ever since Bitcoin started coming down off the highs. Maybe it's because it's more nascent, whatever the case may be. I'm very similar, right? Holding on to some of the bigger purchases that in NFTs that we've made. I think those are still good, kind of long-term, multi-year plays. Focusing on rarity for some, others just trying to get in and kind of be a part. For some of the smaller NFTs, maybe the projects that aren't as kind of what would you say, like your blue chips, but have more speculative value, those selling off a little bit now, kind of using that opportunity to harvest some tax losses there, understanding that NFT New York City is going on right now. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of excitement, and the concern on some of those smaller projects. A good example would be 10KTF, right, which is one that has kind of grown and receded and grown a little bit. Super interesting storyline, but that's I guess a good example of one where it's like, okay, what happens in July or August when there's not as much kind of hype around this? Maybe we go back and retest lows on Bitcoin or ETH, or maybe we just kind of slowly bleed out into the summer, right? I think there might be an opportunity to buy some of those lower. So selling them off now, getting that ETH at still like a super low point compared to where we've been and where I think we'll go, while also harvesting some of those tax losses makes sense to me. So if I'm like brand new, to your point, Poner, looking at buying some ETH for the first time and putting it into NFTs, I would look at some of the synonym projects, if you will, right, that have not revealed. So like your Moonbirds Oddities, your duplicate or your Doodle duplicators, right? Like these floors are lower. You can pick them up for a few $1,000s, and there's still a good chance. I mean, I guess we'll see here soon with like the duplicators for Doodles, but there's a good chance that there's a lot of upside there and a lot of really interesting new utility for some of those. So that's, if you're out there buying, that's what I'd be looking at.
Yeah, one story that we're kind of overlooking here as well, and we won't touch on it too much, was that CryptoPunks had a big announcement here over the past 24 hours. The board, or the Yuga Labs team, essentially touched on that they were going to obviously revive and try to continue to push CryptoPunks forward. That being said, Noah Davis was the digital arm over at Christie's, digital arm lead there, and he was kind of poached and now is going to be leading up that same arm for CryptoPunks. So it looks like that's a big move. That was one of my bigger kind of questions in the space, was mergers and acquisitions happening. I like the idea. It's cool when you get that kind of financialization in our markets, but we saw Yuga Labs acquire CryptoPunks from Larva Labs and nothing was done. And it was a while, and CryptoPunks holders were, rightfully so, feel like they were getting kicked out to the curb. And now you see with this announcement that, CryptoPunks is going to be part of essentially Yuga Labs' plans. They said that to begin with, but weren't doing anything. This is at least a move in the right direction. One of the first since they acquired CryptoPunks IP. So there is a question in the chat. Theophiles says, do you think that celebs will burn their BAYCs? Sell is a good question there. No one's going to burn $100,000, especially celebs. Like, only, some kind of crazy ass motherfucker that is just all, some joker dude who just wants to see the world burn would burn an actual BAYC. Would they sell it based on the news that we were talking about earlier with the burn BAYC trending? Maybe. That was one of the other crazy things caught up in the entire burn BAYC craziness of yesterday, was that people were going to all these former Bored Ape people. I wouldn't say former holders, because I think they're still holding it. Like, you saw Jimmy Fallon there at ApeFest. You saw Steph Curry, although these people essentially don't have their profile pictures as Bored Apes anymore, but that happened a while ago. People were essentially saying that they were profile picturing their Bored Apes on this day, and that's just simply not true. But I think that they'll sell their Bored Apes? No, I think that this is going to be passed over pretty quick, but they're definitely not going to burn it. So. All right, last piece here that I want to touch on is going to be how you guys think Twitter is essentially going to be changed with news that Elon Musk's buyout has been approved, or essentially getting endorsed by the board over at Twitter here. So, I mean, we go one step closer. This isn't a formal announcement by any means that Elon is buying out Twitter, but essentially getting board approval makes it pretty much a formality that this might go through. And I just want to get you guys' take, man. I think it's a cool little, in my opinion, it's a cool little injection into Twitter that has been essentially kind of just stagnating for a while from a feature standpoint. I know they have Twitter Blue and some of those features that they've been adding, but I think it could get a lot better. But I want to get your guys' take on this board announcement and what it means for Web3.
Yeah, just from a marketing perspective, I think it depends how crazy stuff gets, like with new implementations. And so traditionally, like, social media algorithms are going to push viewership, because then they can push more ads to people, make more money, and get people to stay on their platform longer, right? And I think Elon's already mentioned other ways of monetizing or thrown ideas out there and everything. Whereas if those were to ever come to fruition and the algorithm changes away from keeping people's viewership and ad spend and stuff, I guess, first of all, I don't think that it's possible to move away from that, because you would just kill the platform, because the other social media platforms are going to engage in those tactics, and then they'd have more viewership. Specifically with Web3, though, and Elon Musk coming in, I think that it'll take some education for him and buy-in into NFTs and stuff for it to be a positive thing. Otherwise, I think it's going to be fairly neutral, other than what people talk about, more people coming back to the platform that might have moved away from it and stuff.
What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was looking and checking the Twitter stock price here and the Doge price, and Twitter's been a little more active than Doge has, but you could kind of put on some some funny trades there if you really believed in Elon but weren't sure if it was going to make a huge difference for Twitter, like short Twitter, long Doge. Because I think if anything, that's what his focus is going to be. He's got a lot of following there around Doge and SHIB and that stuff. So it seems to be fun for him versus the NFTs. We haven't seen too much buy-in from him on that. I know he kind of joked at the fungible, non-fungible thing in a tweet a handful of months ago. So I think it'll have more impact there. The way I could see NFTs doing well on Twitter now is just the ability, as Poner was kind of getting at, for new features to come through now, right? If he really opens it up to kind of everybody's own expression or the team's development, or brings in like really unique people, obviously NFTs and profile pictures, right? Like this is a massive part of Twitter. The piece makes sense there. And the reach on Twitter is obviously much larger than the current NFT community. So definitely some potential, but nothing that I think is going to make a huge difference in the short term.
Love it, guys. Let us know in chat as we kind of wrap up today's episode what you guys think about Elon getting ready to buy Twitter here and take it forward and see what features they can add. The other feature I do want to talk about before we pop out, we'll continue to hit on those comments if they do come through. But Mike, you dropped me this story here yesterday, and this will be the last story we touch on here on NFT Live. But Solana is adding xNFTs. This is a feature. I'm not sure. Again, I would love the backstory here, but xNFTs, executable NFTs, essentially the NFTs will be apps in your wallet, a lot like what you have here with your mobile phone, where you can kind of get access to these apps within one wallet. What is the situation here that you see with Solana, and do you like Solana long term?
Yeah, I do like Solana long term. I think they have enough as far as the community goes, enough as far as applications go, and this big buy-in from folks like Sam at FTX to kind of keep pushing through it. I mean, they've obviously had massive issues and have like gone so far as shutting down the chain, and those need to be dealt with, and in a lot of ways are. But any kind of any large layer one is going to have a lot of these issues. So you just have to understand that it's going to be volatile, and the chances for these issues are going to be larger than with something like a Bitcoin or an ETH. The xNFTs is interesting to me from a decentralization standpoint, right? So it pulls together multiple layers of activity within crypto onto one platform, I guess, right? And that's the wallet application. So from what I can tell, basically what they're saying is that they're going to allow for applications like, say, a game like Aurora to be played directly within your Phantom wallet or your Soulflare wallet or whatever Solana wallet they go with, maybe MetaMask one day. But then you won't necessarily have to use a lot of kind of your like Web 2 operating systems or your Web 2 hosting or these kind of things. So I think it's one of those things that will kind of be like a flash in the pan here in the middle of the bear market, but could be an interesting trend, as we move into the next cycle, more so broadly for like how crypto and how applications and all of these things that have always kind of been promised to be big in crypto, but have never done a great job of kind of moving through to what you'd think like an adoption phase would look like. So I'm super interested in it. Something I'm definitely going to be following. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference for Solana or Solana NFTs immediately, but that's just kind of how bear markets go. But definitely worth following.
Yeah, Poner, I want to get your take on the Solana ecosystem and if you're at all interested in what's going on over there. But this is a cool aspect here too, because NFTs, because mobile games are so big, and because NFT gaming is going to hopefully be a larger industry as we see over the next couple of years. A lot of the NFT games that we see today are web browser based, are going to be a game, software on an actual PC. But this seems to be a really cool fit for mobile gaming, man. That would be really cool to be able to have your mobile wallet and then open that just like you do in your Apple Store. Be interested to see games like Fancy Birds and some other mobile games that could benefit from this potentially, if it moves to ETH, obviously.
Yeah, and that's kind of the next thing that I want to look into. I don't have a ton of exposure to Solana and Solana NFTs right now, but the thing that I've been doing in the bear market is, since like the Discords that I'm a part of are less active and projects are just kind of, sticking to whatever they've been doing, and there's not a ton of huge announcements, being able to have that opportunity to look into new projects, new chains, new tech, and just be ready for whenever that next bull market is, to have the knowledge that I want to have to be able to make strategic trades even better.
Love it, guys. All right, well, we're going to move on here to the end of the episode. We appreciate you sticking by us while we're not at NFT NYC, and you might not be as well. We're kind of coping here together. Cianox says MetaMask coin would be perfect right now. I don't know if we're seeing a mask coin anytime soon. I feel like they would have launched that already here in the last bull, but I guess I'll throw that to a lightning question to any of you guys. You expecting a mask coin anytime soon?
I hope so. I mean, that's a big trend. That's a big trend reversal. There's a lot of people that use MetaMask. That's a big airdrop. I think that, to your point about the bull markets, if they're going to launch it, the coin will do better in a bull market versus a bear, because everybody's just going to pull out, cash for whatever deficit they're dealing with right now. But yeah, I hope so soon.
Awesome, guys. Poner, you got any last thoughts, man?
No, just with the concept of airdrops, I think Genie XYZ has said they're going to do one eventually, and that was kind of old news, but I've been just trying to buy NFTs through that platform, even if I'm just buying one, just to get my total transactions up there. There's a hot take.
Alpha at the end of the episode, man. What's going on with DeadHeads? What's like the latest on the roadmap before we get up out of here?
Yeah, so the season finale will be coming out within the next couple weeks, and that'll be the end of season 1. Then we move into a series of shorts, which will be a different world that's getting built out, and kind of a way to test out different markets and test out different stories in shorter episodes. Hell
yeah. Love the graphic here too that you guys are putting out for NFT NYC. Guys, this was NFT Live. We appreciated you sticking by us here. We are going to get up out of here. Again, this was Mike Finch, and I have a Poner from DeadHeads, marketing lead over there. Finch is over at Parada Capital, heading up that outfit. Guys, I appreciated you so much for stopping by today. Mike, Poner, any last thoughts before we get up out?
Cope together. It's the way to do it. LADZ is where it's at, baby.
I appreciate y'all.
LADZ City.
Love it. All right, guys, this was NFT Live. Please leave a like before you head out, and we will be here tomorrow with Jordan Lyle, who's going to be talking about his new venture here in the NFT space. But appreciate you guys again. I'm going to play some of our tribe members out again that we played earlier in the episode, but I just got to cope a little bit harder, so I'm going to play those guys. Later. Peace. Kagi, stay away from the statues, man. Seriously.
Morning, I hope you make a place in a bear market, just trying to make a way, yeah. And these goblins riding up to space, but it's kind of funny, so it's all good with me, yeah. Good morning, I hope you live it well. Kind of nut spread, taking care of yourself, eh. Good morning, I hope you live it good. Hopefully this heat gon' get us out of here. GM, now my wrist so frozen. I just saw the bag, it's a real good morning. And I'm burning on my gas, but I made a couple thousand. Yeah, got me saying GM, now my wrist so frozen. I just saw the bag, it's a real good morning. And I'm burning on my gas, but I made a couple